Welcome again, everyone, to the group exhibit for hydrogen fuel cells and batteries here at the Hanover Fair 2017. Please, anyone standing on the outside, please feel free to come in and sit down and enjoy a complimentary beverage. My name is Michael Sinclair, and I will be your moderator for the next discussion. I'd like to remind you that audience questions are welcome at any time, so please raise your hand and I'll bring the microphone to you. Here to talk about market preparation and commercialization of fuel cells, hydrogen, and battery applications is the Managing Director of NOW GmbH. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Klaus Bonhoff to the stage. Hi, thank you. So, Dr. Bonhoff, for anyone unfamiliar, could you please introduce NOW GmbH and why it was founded?
Yes, I'm happy to. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and hello everybody. NOW is the National Organization for Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Technologies, and it was founded 10 years ago when the government, together with industry and academia, decided to go into a 10-year program addressing market preparation for hydrogen and fuel cell technologies. And they came up with a nice plan and then figured out they need somebody to make sure they stick to the plan and that coordinates all these activities. And that was really our purpose when we were founded, not as a funding agency, we worked together with a funding agency, but really as a program management organization, coordinating all these activities, which is R&D projects, which is activities around market preparation in general, not only on hydrogen and fuel cells, that's how it started, but actually since early this year, the Ministry of Transportation also tasked us and contracted us to manage their program on battery electric mobility, on building up recharging infrastructure in Germany, and on their mobility and fuel strategy in general. So really everything around sustainable mobility. We're the program management organization for the German government to coordinate these efforts.
Okay, very good. How would you describe the state of commercialization of these technologies in Germany, and how do the priorities of NOW reflect this?
10 years ago, really the scope was to increase the performance of the technology to a point that a customer would be willing to actually deploy the product. What happened over the last 10 years is that hydrogen and fuel cell technology came to a point where technically the systems do what you expect them to do, but they're still too expensive. So really the main focus today is to get these early products into the market and to realize economies of scale by ramping up volume. You still need R&D, but on top of that you need support of early commercialization, and this is what the new 10-year period of the National Innovation Program is providing. So the German government is still continuing to support research and development as well as market activation. At the same time, industry gets to the point where they not only work together in the labs to increase the performance, but also really to sell products to consumers. It is reflected in our program that we're targeting infrastructure buildup. Since this is hydrogen fuel cells and batteries, we're looking at hydrogen infrastructure buildup for passenger cars, but also for rail applications, for bus applications. And this is true for recharging infrastructure when it comes to battery electric mobility. So there are programs in place funded by the German government that we're coordinating on infrastructure. And the second main focus, I would say, is on really making sure that we use renewable energies in the transportation sector as power directly in battery electric vehicles, but also as hydrogen produced in an electrolyzer based on renewable energies, and then use that hydrogen as a fuel, which provides the power sector with the benefit of a flexibility option. So managing fluctuating energy from PV and wind via hydrogen electrolyzers is one of our main focuses as well.
So you spoke of two different programs. You spoke of support of R&D, but also market activation. What kind of assistance is the government providing? Is this financing for loans, or are these grant programs, or what?
Well, one is a classical R&D funding project. So whenever a industry or an academic organization wants to do R&D, it depends on the level of innovation, what your funding quota is, but basically you get funded for your R&D activity. So that's one part of the program, which we continue to do. And just to give you a few figures, over the last 10 years, the German government has funded in the order of 700 million euros in R&D projects. And we're looking at another, probably, the same order of magnitude for the next 10 years to continue to do R&D. Market activation is a different funding mechanism, which usually works in a way that you get a subsidy, which is calculated upon a certain quota of your innovative delta cost. So new technology costs more than incumbent technology, and that delta is then the basis to calculate your subsidy.
So two of the biggest applications that we've been talking about here at this fair include fleet vehicles and power to gas for the grid. My question is, which of these do you think has the most compelling proposition in an unsubsidized market?
In an unsubsidized market, once you get to full market penetration, the technology will be available unsubsidized. So in any case, you need the vehicles and you need the infrastructure. And when you talk about infrastructure, the question is, where does the energy come from? We've been talking about hydrogen and fuel cells for quite a while. And we've heard announcements from large vehicle manufacturers to introduce vehicles into the markets, and we do see the first vehicles into the markets. But they're still at a phase where they're too expensive for the end consumer. So fleet applications may offer an opportunity to more cost-effectively provide a good solution to the end consumer, at the same time managing the infrastructure in a more regional way. Nevertheless, we're still continuing to build up a area-wide coverage of hydrogen stations for passenger cars, but fleet applications again may offer certain advantages when it comes to regional solutions. So then the question always is, well, if you produce hydrogen, you're losing all this energy. The target really is to produce hydrogen based on renewable energy, and this is where we have to find the right instruments to use renewable power to produce in an electrolyzer hydrogen as a renewable fuel, and it's this coupling the sectors, as we call it, that is so important to also find the business cases. If you look at the power sector alone or the transportation sector alone, it's hard to find the right business cases. But if you couple these sectors, provide a benefit to one sector, at the same time helping the other, so a win-win situation will give you good business solutions.
You spoke about the amount of investment that the German government has made in the fuel cell industry. Many, myself being on the outside of it, looking in, you see an industry that's taken quite a long time to get to the level of maturity that it's at. I guess, how does the government kind of, obviously it's standing behind its investment and kind of doubling down for the next 10 years. I guess speak to how long the technology has taken to get to commercialization and what the confidence level is that this has been the right decision.
Well, since the decision to prolong the program was made just recently, I think the commitment is still very, very recent and still there. Nevertheless, there's always a discussion, what's the right technology? Is it batteries? Is it fuel cells? Hydrogen? Both. We need both. We need the whole technology portfolio to really cover, in the end consumer needs. There's perfect applications for pure battery solutions, but they get to their limit if you talk about high energy demands, fast recharging, and all these kind of consumer things. So that's where hydrogen fuel cell kicks in. So really the last 10 years, and yes, 10 years ago we were hoping that things would go faster. There's no doubt about that. But in the end, if you look at the transformation that did take place, if you look at the technology level that was reached until today, I'm very confident that we now see the starting of commercial products. And you see the first vehicles around. In our program we had field tests for combined heat and power fuel cell systems in residential applications. They are now available as products from known companies in that sector. So really it's a starting point for this commercialization right now.
Would you point to any specific success stories in these development programs over the years?
Refueling a hydrogen car in 3 minutes is done today based on international standards, so this is happening as we speak. Fuel cell products in residential applications are in the market. We see backup power solutions around hydrogen and fuel cells that gives you prolonged runtime compared to battery systems. Those are in the market. So if you look at the overall industry, in Germany alone there is around about 500 organizations active in this field, produce or developing products, manufacturing products, so I think that's a success story.
Just want to remind the audience, you're welcome to ask questions at any time. So I'll continue then. So lithium battery technology in particular has experienced somewhat astonishing cost reductions in the recent years. I guess how have you had to adapt any of your programs to kind of reflect its commercial viability?
It's true that battery technology has undergone tremendous cost reductions. At least the global market price for battery systems, what people now talk about, is in the order of 120 to 150 euros per kilowatt hour, which brings you down to a level where for smaller passenger cars you can provide 200-300 kilometers of range, and that for a lot of applications really is a very sufficient and convenient solution. Has that changed the hydrogen fuel cell program? Not really, because if you start looking at larger vehicles with longer range, you still need that hydrogen and fuel cell technology, always in a hybridized system. So any fuel cell vehicle you see around is a hybridized vehicle. So it's batteries and fuel cells together, and both have their challenges in cost reduction. So our target 10 years ago was cost reduction on the fuel cell side. We achieved some. We're not there where we need to be. We need to continue. At the same time, any cost reduction on the battery side, perfect. That's what we need as well.
Great. Well, we're going to wrap this one up a little bit early. So for more information, I'd welcome you to stop by the NOW booth at B56. Could everyone please join me in thanking Dr. Klaus Bonhoff for joining me on the stage today?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was great.
Thank you.
Up next in the public forum will be a conversation with the CEO of H-Tech Systems, speaking on the topic of leveraging PEM electrolysis, opportunities and potentials with and beyond renewable energy business.